Oh, wait.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being here with us tonight. We're going to open the meeting with our pledge to the U.S. and the Texas flag. If you would stand and please remain standing following for a moment of silence. If you join me, I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. You may be seated. Once again, welcome to the regular meeting of the Pflugerville City Council on this February 10th. We appreciate you being here. The first item, or rather the next item on our agenda is public comment. I have received no forms indicating anyone wishing to speak. Is there anyone in the public wishing to make public comment on general items at this time? Who's got the Yep. Come on forward. You can take the podium. You'll have. Let me read the legalese. In accordance with the Texas Attorney General opinion, any public comment that is made on an item that is not on the published final agenda will only be heard by the council. No formal action, discussion, deliberation, or comment will be made by the City Council. Each person providing public comment will be limited to 3 minutes. Just so you know, we're not allowed to respond or deliberate, but we'd be delighted to hear you.
Okay, great. Good evening. My name is Joseph Brown. I live in the Green Ridge community over here in Pflugerville. I'm come up here today to follow up on the road conditions in our community, extremely pertaining to Cheyenne Valley and Gatascrew Road with the light there, to see what the progress is. But I haven't talked to Mr. Evan. I think he's over here today. I don't see him. And see how that's progressed. Also, the city of Pflugerville has come in and painted the fluorescent type stripes for the walkways for the children and everybody to get across the new blacktop, because the new blacktop had destroyed all that before. But it's not completely finished, and it's not finished on the main thoroughfare roads, which is Boone Valley and Cheyenne Valley, which is the most dangerous roads in the community because everyone uses that as a thoroughfare to cut through to the other side of Hutto and to Penley Park. And they go extremely fast, and it's very dangerous because both those roads have bus stops. It's also where the park is for the children in that area, in our area. According to highway.dot.gov, let me read this right quick. A driver may not see or be aware of conditions within a corridor and may drive at a speed that feels reasonable for themselves, but may not be for other users of the system, especially vulnerable road users, including children and seniors. A driver traveling at 30 miles per hour who hits a pedestrian has a 45% chance of killing or seriously injuring them. At 20 miles an hour, that chance has dropped down to 5%. So that road, Cheyenne Valley and Boone Valley, both at 35 miles an hour. They have a park there. We have elderly crossing the street. We have women, I see them all the time, next to the park trying to get their cribs out, walkers out. There's no parking. So you got cars going by at extreme speeds. I hate to say 60 miles an hour or more sometimes, coming down the hill to get out of the community, get to the other side of Gatascrew Road. We have bus stops there. I see children catch the bus there every morning. And we just need more safety for the pedestrians in our community and everything. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. I imagine, I do see Evan back there. I imagine he'll be happy to have a conversation with you. as the evening progresses. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak during public comment? All right, before we move into presentations, I did want to pull one item up from our later in our agenda. It was also on our work session agenda. I wanted to, where's my agenda go? Make sure that we get through that quickly because we may have some people in attendance who will leave immediately following that. So I'm going to open item 8D. That is the open session item, discuss and consider action regarding case number 1:24-CV-00914-ADA Impact Way LLC v. Pflugerville Community Development Corporation in the City of Pflugerville, pending in the Western District of Texas, Austin Division.
Mr. Mayor, will you accept a motion?
The floor is yours.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we immediately defund all PCDC funding for the legal department for their legal counsel.
Second.
I have a motion and a second from David and Rudy. Motion fails. Thank you, David. We will return to item number 4. I have a couple of proclamations to make. I will move to the podium. Thank you all for being here with us tonight. This is a mayor's proclamation declaring February 2026 as Black History Month in the city of Pflugerville. Black History Month was originally Black History Week, but in 1976 was expanded to recognize the entire month. It's now celebrated all over North America. During this month, we celebrate that many achievements and contributions have been made by our African American community. Black History Month is a time where all Americans are encouraged to reflect on past successes and challenges of Black communities and look to the future to ensure freedom, equity, and inclusion persist in this great nation. So I hereby proclaim February 2026 as Black History Month in the city of Pflugerville. Bobby, did Bobby make it here? We were going to have Bobby Mack accept this proclamation. We'll make sure that she gets it. Bobby owns one of our restaurants here in town, and we were very fortunate to have the food here for the council catered by them tonight in an effort to show our support to our Black community and those all-important Black-owned businesses. Thank you.
Can we clap?
She's on her way? She's on her way? Okay. Okay. We'll make sure she gets it. We'll see if we can get a photo here in a few minutes. Do I have another one of these? There it is. All right. I have a second proclamation to make. This is item 4B. Earlier in our work session, we had a presentation of our engineering department, and I do want to clarify that our engineers do not drive trains. They design and build some amazing infrastructure here in our city. So engineers use their training and specialized skills in creative and innovative ways to fulfill society's needs. Engineering has been called the invisible profession because everything around us and everything we use every day has been engineered in one way or another. Engineering Week promotes recognition of the importance of a technical education and a high level of math, science, and technology literacy. It also motivates youth to pursue engineering careers. So I proclaim February 22nd to the 28th as Engineers Week in the city of Pflugerville. We have Jeff Dunsworth, our city engineer and assistant director of utility engineering, here to accept the proclamation. Jeff, would you like to come forward?
I'd invite all my fellow engineers to come with me.
Absolutely. The more engineers means more fun, right?
Let's have us all here.
All right. Get a nice photo.
Let's get it. We'll be right back.
You got one more, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay, and everyone's just
Like each other.
okay. All right. And then vertical, put it on forward. Thank you.
One through this, all right.
Well, we think we are.
Can you say CPAs are financial engineers of
Council, this brings us to the reading of our consent agenda. I would ask if there are any items wishing to be pulled from the consent agenda.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull item 5B as in boy and item 5D as in dog.
and
Baker and Delta,
and I'd like to pull 5C.
5C
Yeah.
as in Charlie. What does that leave?
1. This was a short one.
Trista, would you call our consent agenda, I suppose?
Absolutely. Items 5B, 5C, and 5D have been pulled, which means the remaining item of 5A may be acted upon.
I move to approve the consent agenda such as it is.
The minutes?
Second.
All right. I have a motion from David and a second from Jonathan. We have 2 members absent from the council dais. That passes unanimously of those present. That takes us to item 6. 6A is discuss and consider action regarding appointments to the Finance and Budget Committee. We do have 3 vacancies on this committee with terms ending in 2026. I believe we have 5 applicants here with us today. Traditionally, we would call these applicants up to introduce themselves. The first on my list is Ms. A.K. Brewer. She has expressed a desire to not approach unless there are any questions that would be required of her.
I really want to ask Caesar's question since he's not here. Ms. Brewer, could you come
Ms.
up?
Brewer, would you be willing to entertain one question?
One question? Absolutely. Oh,
Good evening, esteemed mayor and council. Yes, Mr. Vice.
Good evening,
How may I
ma'am.
help you?
So this is the question that Councilman Ruiz traditionally asks. Why do you want to serve on this committee instead of all of the other committees, boards, and commissions that the city of Pflugerville has?
I wish I didn't know you personally because no one else will catch the joke. But what I will say is, I'll make it short and sweet. Just in general, representation. As a citizen, I'd like to know where my tax dollars are going, and ultimately, as a citizen, how I can support all the, let's be honest, with all the things that's going on within our city, meaning the citizens' response to the management, to the leadership. A lot of it deals with our budget. So I want to see how I can contribute to supporting our council as well as supporting our citizens and understanding as best we can per policy, per law, per statute, how we as citizens can support and understand without giving up too much confidential information that you guys have and aren't willing to share. I think that citizens don't always understand. There are certain things you can and cannot tell us.
Thank you, ma'am.
You understand? Any more questions?
No, ma'am.
Melody?
Thank you for volunteering.
Ms. Holliday? I'm going around. Mr. Kaufman?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Mayor?
We're good. Our next applicant is Ronald Citron. Is Ronald here with us this evening?
I received a message that he's running late, so maybe we can circle back if he's still here at the end.
We'll see if we can make that happen. All right. I have Miss Carla Carroll. Carla, if you would come forward.
sure.
Thank you for being here with us tonight.
Yes, sir.
Would you care to quickly introduce yourself? And obviously, there's one question that it sounds like we'll be asking everyone: why this was important?
I have lived here in Pflugerville for, let's see, since '07. I am the founder of the Zeus and Luna to Pay It Forward Foundation. We donate our dogs to veterans. I have a long history of accounting. I've been an accountant for 30 years. I have been a budget analyst at Space Naval Warfare. I have a bachelor's in accounting, a master's in public administration, and a master's in business administration, and I'm working on my doctorate in business leadership. I'm also currently a project controls analyst for AECOM. I work in EPP, Environmental Protection Planning, and I am super with project management. Next.
Well,
Sorry.
all right, I'm going to ask Councilman Ruiz's question because he's still getting
Sure.
back up to speed. Why this committee as opposed to any of the other committees, boards, or commissions that the city of Pflugerville has?
Well, I live here. I live in Highland Park North, and I have seen it grow immensely. We used to have cows come across our backyard, and now there's, a lot of businesses and so on and so forth. And because of what my personal goal is after I graduate with a doctorate, I'm more curious and want to learn more about how their finances go and so on and so forth. So my goal is I want to go to Congress and help them fix the VA. That's why I'm getting all the degrees. But I need to learn and see what's going on in my own city. So why not? Like I said, I have project management skills, so I'm here to help, learn, and volunteer my time.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, ma'am. I was curious. I was reading your application. In it, you mentioned transparency. In no way, shape, or form should any member of the finance committee or council members ask for information and be sidelined. What do you mean by that?
If I ask for, or anybody in the public asks for, most people don't know they can go online and download your financials.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can point that out to people, that would be a big help. I know that there's a lot of people who don't know that. They're not aware that you can pull down financials. Mm-hmm. That's what I mean by transparency, by letting them know, hey, look, you can go online and download all the transcripts and where the money's going and so on and so forth from previous years and this current year.
Mm-hmm. You also said, or was it? Everyone has a right to learn.
Yes.
Yeah, obviously there are no dumb questions. What do you mean by everyone has a right to learn?
Everybody in the city has a right to learn what's going on. If they have a question, let's answer them. If they have something that they need to be answered and we don't have the answer for it, let them know, we'll get back to you. That's my biggest thing, is I answer emails right away. Hey, I got your message, I'll get back to you. Let them know that you're working on it, and if you don't know the answer, figure it out or lead them to someone else who does. That's what I mean by learning. Everybody has a right to learn. Everybody who lives here has a right to learn what's going on in the city. Guide them to the right places. That's all.
I'm curious if that conveys a requirement of other individuals to teach. Because learning is individual, right?
Well, yes and no. So if that person is willing to learn,
mm-hmm.
point them in the right direction. If you read case study, blah, 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 here's the website to it. That's teaching them. So just guiding people to where they need to go.
All right. Any other questions for Carla? Thank you for
Yes, sir.
For answering our questions. We have Scott Stieferman, I believe.
Sir.
Is it Stiefer or Stifer?
Stifer.
Okay. Sorry, you're in a German town, and in German they pronounce the second vowel. So I went with it, but Stieferman. Thank you for being here with us today.
Well, I'm very interested in the position simply because I'd like to be able to provide some citizen-based review and audit of the budget and finances. I've had a very good understanding and working with multiple parties on the team regarding questions and answer type sessions that I hope elicit deeper dives into some of these financial concerns or some of these issues that have been brought up over the past. So I welcome Jonathan, for example, and his prompt response and his summary of current environment, as well as other team members that have contributed not only review and audit type roles or type concerns. So I don't have a formal financial or audit background, but I hope to say I'm able to ask the right questions that elicit the right responses. And to team up on the teaching concept, I started out my career as a Microsoft product trainer. So one of my big things was a lot of people asking for, hey, highlight the stuff I need to study for, highlight the stuff I need to review. And one of my long-standing statements is learn how to learn, don't learn how to memorize. So I follow in that same truth of teaching, not necessarily by the book, but by the end goal and the what it takes to maybe get there.
David, did you have a question?
I think he answered it before I could ask it.
Okay.
It's always nice to have other people go first.
Council,
Anybody
are there questions for Mr. Stiferman?
Not for me.
Good stuff.
All right.
Well, thank
Thank you,
y'all
sir.
very,
Thank you.
very much.
And then I have Jonathan Reich. Did I get that one right?
Yes.
All right. That one is German. Okay.
Another German. Yeah. Council, Mr. Mayor, it's good to see you again. I was before you guys in December expressing my interest in this committee, and I'm glad to be back. To remind you of my background, I grew up in Pflugerville from 7 to 18 before I moved away from college when I did my bachelor's in finance and my master's in product development. I've spent my career as a consultant and then most recently helping a small law firm out in Caldwell startup. So I have a little bit of experience in Excel, you could say, and I would love to apply that to Pflugerville and help out as part of this committee. One of the things that I've heard expressed, I think, by everyone here is that transparency and helping citizens understand the budget is a really high priority. That's something that I noticed as well when I was, helping with the runoff campaign for Doug. When I was speaking with people who were leaning towards Pat McCord, one of the things that really resonated with his campaign was the fact that he touched on budget transparency and on some of the auditing. So I think that's a really important piece of this committee that it sounds like all of us would be on board with, and that's something that I've talked with Melody about a little bit. I'd love to see how we can make the budget just more accessible to people, and because of my background in not just finance and technology, I think I'm positioned to do that. So thank you.
So,
Thank you.
I'm curious, Jonathan, because one of the things we often talk about is that, frankly, if anybody wants to access the budget, they have access to. We have it online. We have available to that. But to you, it appears that it may be more opaque than we think. What are ideas that you have in mind where we can make it so either more relative? Because data's never been the issue, right? Like people have data, but actionable data and be able to do that has always been something that's remained to it. So how do we make it more relatable for people to better ascertain and understand what's going on?
That's a great question. I think really it's more than just having the data, like you said. It's about being able to tell a story with the data and having avenues for the public to be able to access that and understand not just the numbers on the screen, because the reality is most people won't be able to understand the numbers like just by themselves. It's making sure they understand, if we can provide them with the reasoning behind maybe why we made a certain decision, the story that went into that, maybe as much as we can highlight those things for people, I think that would help them understand and be more connected to the city of Pflugerville. And I think that's something that we can do.
Any other questions for Jonathan?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Did Ronald make it in?
Yes, sir.
All right, council members, we have up to 3 positions to appoint. I do want to clarify, Jonathan, I think our last time there were concerns about your voter registration still being in Collin County, and I understand you have submitted to ensure that your voter registration was transferred to Travis County. So if he were selected, we would need to ensure that it is effective upon confirmation of the transfer?
Yes, he is eligible.
He is eligible. Very good.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Glad to hear it.
Travis County's better than we, Jonathan.
With that, council, as I was saying, up to 3 vacancies on this board. We need at least 1 in order for them to make quorum, so that they can hold meetings, which I think is the goal of this item. I'm going to ask for your top 1, 2, or 3. I'm going to actually go. Let's see, Jonathan, your top 1, 2, or 3.
Sure. I'd say Jonathan Reich and A.K. Brewer at the top of mine.
Okay. Caesar.
I had AK and Jonathan.
All right. Kimberly.
I had AK and Jonathan.
All right, Rudy.
What are we being a parrot now? A.K. Jonathan.
All right, Melody.
A.K. Scott and Carla, sorry.
I'm sorry, that was A.K. Scott
And Carla.
Carla. All right, and David.
At the risk of being parrot, I'm just going to echo Melody's 3.
A.K., Carla, and Scott.
Yes.
And then mine would be A.K., Jonathan, and Ronald. I believe that gives us A.K. 7, Ronald 1, Carla 2, Scott 2, Jonathan 5. Based on that, I would recommend that we appoint A.K. and Jonathan, and it seems like that is the threshold. All right, I've got a motion from Caesar, a second from Rudy.
I don't know why I did deuces.
Oh, hold on, that's PDF. Hold on, get back to my screen. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you for that. I'm going to.
So I did have a question
Yes,
because in the past, you guys have expressed that if someone wasn't here, that they couldn't have a vote, or that we, or at least that was my impression of the operation. So if we have another vacancy and that's not the rule, then I think it's good to fill the entire committee if we can.
Would you like to make another motion?
Got time?
I will say I don't believe the absence is a disqualifier. I will say when I was first appointed to PCDC in 2009 that someone who was not present was also appointed.
It seemed like there was something was said about it in the last time
we just tend not to.
We like
we
would
like
to
for
have the
people
candidate here, but it's
to
not a
present themselves, but it is not a requirement, especially if council members are familiar with the individual. If, for example, if there's someone who you had recruited who wasn't able to make it, you're welcome to speak on their behalf. But is this council's prerogative on who we appoint to boards and commissions?
Yeah.
Okay.
If the emergency happens, we've done it.
We can bring that.
Okay. Well, I'd like to make a motion to, given this new information, to recommend Ronald as the final position for the Finance and Budget.
I have a motion from Melody.
Second.
I have a second from David.
I'm sorry.
Did I say the right name?
So would you,
Yeah.
in interest of further discussion, Melody, you seem to know Ronald. You mentioned that he was not here. Would you convey his qualifications for us?
Well, he had applied before, so I had just reached out to him and said, "Hey, we're going to be having another thing. So do you want to reapply?" And here he is.
Oh, there's Ronald. Wow.
Yeah.
There he is.
Hi, Ronald. We got lots of questions for you now. Oh, no.
No.
Your ears must have been burned out, right? You come to the podium. I'm sorry, Ronald.
Am I the last to arrive?
Yeah.
Thank you for showing up. We were just discussing the appointments. We've made 2 of the 3 appointments. The other was going to remain vacant, but we would love to be introduced to you if you would tell us who you are. You unfortunately don't have the benefit of hearing the questions that were asked before you, but one of those would be why this board and not something else. And take it away.
Okay, a little background on myself. I've done some work. My entire career has been with the public sector. So I helped Travis County build the internal audit department. I also worked for Travis County at the auditor's office. I have a few certifications, like certified internal auditor.
When you said help build it on
yes.
Expand on that.
They needed some internal auditors, and a lot of really, we were able to catch some stuff actually, but they didn't have internal auditors, so it's me and one other person.
Okay.
Yes, and he still works there, and it's grown to 3, but I've since left. That was like 8 years ago. We built it from the ground up, though, reading the books, and we put the charters together and everything. So we built it from the ground up, and it was good. Lots of data analysis and stuff like that. So I've always cared about the government. I live here. I've raised a family here. We've been raising a family here. Love it. I want to contribute this way because I understand accounting. I have a master's degree in accounting, so that's why FAB, when it came up, I saw that it was vacant. I figured, why not? This is a good way to volunteer. I had once sat on the I always want to say ethics, the equity. Board. I did that about 6 years ago as well. That was a good experience. I do apologize for being late. That's you want
showed up just in time.
You have someone you need to thank.
Yeah, I mean, well, she's been.
I just happened to check my email. So,
so I mean, my question would be for this is that you I don't want to put words in your mouth, but from what I heard you say is that you had experience as being an auditor. You helped create the internal audit department for Travis County and help build it up with somebody because of your skill sets and prior experience and built it from the ground floor. What do you see here that you think that you can either improve on or delta points or frankly that you see is necessary for us to take it to another level when it comes to what we do at finance and auditing here?
Sure. I think I haven't been paying as close attention to what is happening with finance and audit and budget. I do understand city financial statements or annual budgets, right? Working for consultants as well. I've done that for various small cities across the U.S. Here, for instance, I think the new city council being brought up next to HEB, I remember that being part of a capital improvement program maybe 5-6 years ago, and it is coming up, and I've been watching parks come up as well. So I know the city's growing. I just want to see where the money's. I mean, that's what it is, right? The taxpayers' money is right. We're all servants entrusted with the taxpayers' money and make sure it gets spent appropriately, right? So I don't think that you're going to get anything very unique from me other than my experience in looking at documents, having to interpret them very quickly, and understand what's going on. I am a PF 101 graduate, so I did at one point know a little bit more or paid more closer attention. When my kids were a little younger. But I'd love to serve in whatever capacity I can. Really, just FAB I guess makes the most sense.
Oh, thank you for bringing your skills forward. I see on your resume you have a certification in risk management assurance. You're a certified government auditing professional, certified information systems auditor, and CIA. It's a different CIA certified internal auditor.
Yes.
Where did you get your master's degree at, by the way?
I don't know if I can say. 'Cause I get a lot of. I didn't know.
How about you want to be able to get this position, right? We're on the same page here.
Yes, I mean diversity, right?
There we go.
We want but I didn't know about school spirit or whatever. But I have gotten heat on many
Living
jobs
in
about
Austin.
that. I do live in Austin. I got it from Texas A&M. That's where I got my master's degree.
Thank you.
That changes my vote completely.
It was online.
I didn't hear any rules. Or there you go.
All right. Any other questions for Mr. Cintron?
No, thank you for coming.
All right. We already have a motion on the table. So I will start that vote.
This is why we like people in person.
Welcome to Finance and Budget.
I
The
know.
vote is unanimous.
I'm so sorry, guys.
Thank you.
I went to the old building and then, so I'm so sorry.
That's all right. Thank you. You were successful.
All right.
So,
Wonderful.
He's like, can I go home now? Yeah.
that's all. That's all you need to be here for.
No, you should visit with the other people who got appointed to the board.
Well, he doesn't know who they are yet.
I'm going
I know.
I'm going to go back and reopen item 4A because I believe we have some individuals in the audience with us. Bobby Mack. We have this presentation for you. Did you want to say any words? You don't have to.
I can. I'd love to talk.
Well, I will just reiterate how important it is in Black History Month that we support our local businesses, especially those like your restaurant, which serves. I'm sorry, your junior taters are enough for three meals, but yeah, definitely excited for you to be here. We've got this. If we could get in front of the flags, we'll get a photo of you accepting this proclamation.
Remember, y'all get a hero's discount.
All right, thank you for that. Very excited. I know there must be some weather delays with folks showing up late. Not our first one. This brings us to item 7. This is public hearings and ordinances. Item 7A. Conduct a public hearing and consider approving an ordinance on first reading with the caption reading an ordinance of the City of Pflugerville, Texas, amending the City of Pflugerville, Texas Code of Ordinances, Chapter 92, adding Articles 3 and 4 regarding the quasi-judicial enforcement of health and safety ordinances, creating a Building and Standards Commission in accordance with Chapter 54 of the Local Government Code, Subchapter C, to meet local conditions, and the authority regarding the substandard building per 214 of the Local Government Code, providing that this ordinance shall be cumulative, repealing all ordinances to the extent that they are in conflict, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Looks like we have Mr. Polanco here to present.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Robert Polanco, building official for the City of Pflugerville. I'm going to be your host for the next 4 items. Before we get into the ordinances specifically themselves, I'd like to give you a general overview of what my intent was for all. One's a correction of an oversight from an adoption a couple of years ago, but the other 3, what my intent was upgrading these ordinances to the city with clear, legally defensible ordinances to address nuisances, unsafe structures, and related violations more effectively. The revisions align local regulations with state statutes, establish objective standards, and create consistent procedures for notification, enforcement, and hearings. When I started, I was given the privilege of taking over the Code Compliance Division in August of last year. And when I started delving into the ordinances themselves, started finding some things that were not overtly wrong, but a little bit concerning, and some of the statutory construction was a bit, I wouldn't say lacking, but needed to be spruced up a little bit. Basic statutory construction and the way that I've structured them are basically you have your definitions first that define the terms to be used inside of that ordinance, description of the offenses, the authority to enforce, the all-important notification procedures, means of appeal, and then penalties. Our first one that we're coming to, let's see.
So this is the creation of the substandard, or the
That is correct.
Building and Standards Commission.
This is the Building and Standards Commission. This previously did not exist and came about in part due to our dealings with a home that was burned pretty severely, that was not able to be restored. It kind of fell into disrepair for a little bit over 2 years. We didn't have a real good mechanism on how to deal with it. We were sending notifications to the homeowner under various ordinances. None of them really applied really well. We do have the means in the International Property Maintenance Code and the International Existing Building Code, but the venue to hear the case was not here. We've never had a Building and Standards Commission here before. We initially notified the property owner of the offenses. We thought we could take them through our city municipal court. Our legal said that's not the proper venue, so we had to go to district court. In district court, it took us 7 months to get through district court. We finally got the judgment, and we're looking to try to avoid going down that route if possible. District court will always be available in the event of an appeal, but we'd like to handle it at the local level first. So the Building and Standards Commission will provide a structured, impartial venue to hear evidence, make findings of fact, and issue orders related to substandard buildings, reducing the need for immediate escalation to that district court. The commission processes ensures property owners receive proper notice, the opportunity to be heard, and clear timelines for compliance, repairs, or appeals, strengthening fairness and legal defensibility. The commission hearings are typically faster and more efficient, hopefully, than district court litigation, allowing dangerous conditions to be addressed in a more timely manner. Handling cases locally minimizes reliance on outside legal proceedings, lowering costs for the city while still preserving the right to judicial appeal when necessary. The commission can order repair, securing, vacation, or demolition based on the specific circumstances of the case, allowing solutions that are proportionate and tailored rather than a one-size-fits-all. A formal commission process demonstrates the enforcement actions are evidence-based, deliberate, and reviewed by an independent body, hopefully improving public trust and compliance. You're going to make sure you get these right, especially when you're talking about personal property. You don't want to end up in a takings claim, so you want to make sure it goes through the right process. And that is the purpose of creating this Article 4 under Chapter 92 of our ordinances. Happy to answer any questions on this particular one. This one's a little bit of a two-part, but this is the first part of it, Article 4.
Yep, I have several questions about this. There are a number of areas where this seems to be different from some of the other city boards and commissions, and some of these are better, some of these are arguably, but they're not uniform in the sense that they're not like other boards and commissions. For instance, at the beginning, when you talk about the composition of terms, you've got staggered members, you've got alternate. Those things are not. We don't have alternates on all of the boards and commissions, but we have it on a number of them. That seems within the realm of the things that we do. But there's a thing at the end of the second paragraph, 92.16. The city council may remove a member for cause set out in a written charge and as determined by the city council after a public hearing if requested by the member on the charge. I'm not aware of any other city board or commission that has language like that. Are you aware of any other Pflugerville city boards or commissions that have similar language?
I am not, sir.
Would you recommend that we adopt language like that in the other for our other boards and commissions?
That's a policy question, and I say yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, should we do that? I'm asking the witness. Do you think that would be a good policy
I
decision?
think that's above my pay grade.
I would agree.
All right. On the
So then, what is the reason to have this language here? That if who drafted this up and was it considered?
I'm guessing what somebody drafted this is what best practices are, and they haven't gone back and looked at all the other boards and commissions. So consequently, what you got is what would. Am I correct?
It wasn't in his.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
the language.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
Right. We didn't go test it to the other
Yeah.
ones. We're happy to do so.
Well, where did the language come from?
Charlie, former city attorney.
Attorney.
So
Okay.
I don't know. We didn't add to the scope the other items.
Yeah, that's what I
Okay.
figured. That makes sense.
And the next section, you've got a quorum requirement of a minimum of 4 rather than a majority. Again, I'm not aware of any other board or commission in the city that has a quorum requirement that high. What's going on there?
Pretty important. You want to have the most people there to hear this thing because you're dealing with private property.
This is potentially a takings claim, so representation is pretty
You really
important.
want to avoid a takings claim.
But even the Board of Adjustment, which is the only thing that can overrule the city council, doesn't have an 80% quorum requirement.
I don't think it has an 80%. Has close to an 80% vacancy rate.
100% vacancy rate.
There is sometimes that problem, but
So
the
that means
point
they
is,
could
this
never
is
meet.
a quorum requirement that's out of line with all of our other boards and commissions.
So
This does seem like something that would
I'm not sure.
necessitate a higher threshold.
I would agree.
I'm not sure the other boards have the ability to remove private property from an individual either. Typically, the Board of Adjustment was just to settle an appeal to a decision made by an official, but not to take something from you.
Apparently, the quorum requirement's the same as the BOA.
Yes.
Oh, is it? Is it 80% on the BOA?
I'm told it's statutory, 75%.
Yeah.
The ZBA board is, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about this one.
Yeah.
So both of our quasi judicial boards will have
Yeah.
the same structure then.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
There's also there's a bit here at this last section about the proceedings have to reflect the members' vote. Okay, that's fine. Failure, absence, that's fine. Failure to vote on each question, but we don't have a why would somebody fail to vote. And normally, the failure to vote on boards and commissions is just if you're recused under the city
If
charter.
you're
Am I
conflicted
remembering that
or
right?
if you're absent.
Right, but if you're there, you have to vote unless you've got a conflict of interest, a
so
material
saying-
conflict of interest, not just a.
Not typically taking an abstention vote, I guess, right?
Yeah.
No,
So-
Thinking of?
additionally, that wouldn't be allowed.
Again, not like what we have in the other ones, and I'm wondering because it does have, as you point out, the ability to affect people's property rights. Do we need to limit membership on this? Do we need to say only lawyers can serve on this committee? Now, of course, a justice of the peace or a municipal judge doesn't have to be a lawyer, but all they can do is, Class C misdemeanors. What they can't do is, affect the title to your property, or potentially, shut down your property or demolish your property. That's a level of authority that we don't customarily grant non-judicial officials. So I'm wondering if we need to add an additional limitation there.
I mean, that's
Qualifications of members.
That's a question to us, as opposed to.
Right.
To the best of your knowledge, is this like
Fairly standard.
pretty standard across the state?
Yes, sir.
So
Okay.
let's recall why this is even being brought up, and this is where I got to give staff a lot of credit, because we did not have a mechanism in place before this. For several years, we have dealt with a dilapidated, burnt-out house that has been a como se dice, pariah on the community. And even as council, we've gone and had this conversation through the years about what to do with that home. We had no mechanisms in place. So I applaud staff for looking at, okay, what are, the industry standards, what are the best and applicable conditions, clauses, everything else that goes with this to make this happen right here. And I think that part of it is that you're asking great questions about, hey, why this threshold and everything else from there, and we understand that because it's what the industry standard comes with that. And additionally, you ask, well, wait a minute, we have some clauses here that we don't have in other commissions, which makes us go look back at, hey, we should probably have that clause in some other commissions too, regarding some stuff that happened from there. I think this is great. I think it makes sense. I also understand your questions, but and you asked the one question about putting lawyers on there. I don't think you need to put lawyers on there. I think it's fine the way it is.
I don't know. I think it's better without lawyers.
Well, I have to say,
lawyers who know the explicit law may not consider other compassionate reasons to rule a certain way.
well, I have to say that the many, many justices of the peace that I have dealt with, my two favorites, were not lawyers.
There you go. Thank you for your agreement.
But also, justices of the peace don't have the power that we're investing in this commission.
David, do you have any other questions?
Yeah, we Rudy touched on this, and we have had this one instance with this one building, and it was 2 years, 2.5 years,
maybe 3 now,
start to finish. But obviously that was one problem, and it was for the people immediately around that was a ongoing issue. But is this something that we run into a lot? Is this a solution in search of a problem, or is this a solution to a regularly ongoing problem?
I think that you want to have something you don't need it, and need something you don't have it.
I'd like to hear the answer.
What I'm shocked at here in the city of Pflugerville is how many houses get struck by lightning and fires. You'd be surprised, especially on the eastern part of the town. It happens a lot. Now, this particular fire was not caused by a lightning strike, and that was part of the issue as to why it's remained in the state it's in. It was an ongoing investigation and other things like that. But yeah, you could run the potential of having more of these. And ironically, this was in a newer section of town. There's older sections of town that have some dilapidated structures that we've dealt with in the past from the code compliance perspective. Luckily, they've come into compliance with a lot of hand-holding and working with them and time, but it'll happen. It'll definitely happen.
How often? I mean, is this a once in a decade problem?
No.
Is this a once every 6 months problem?
No, I'd say once every 2-3 years, I would imagine. Where I came from, my previous municipality of a city of 5,000, I probably had 3 structures that were taken care of in that 10-year time period. So when you scale that up to the size of Pflugerville, I imagine it's going to happen more.
Is your expectation that we will staff this with board members consistently, or will this be more like, I'm going to say, the Board of Adjustment and the Personnel Appeal Board that we appoint about the time that it's necessary?
It's preferable that they're at least on board, they're briefed, they know what their duties are.
They're educated and trained.
And their limitations, they're trained. But the hope is that you never see them again.
Mm-hmm. And I know one of my big motivations on this, I know going through the process, I think, a lone no vote on going through a process on a particular structure in the past. And my reason was because we did not have the Building and Standards Commission. Without it, the citizens bore the expense of going to district court. Whereas with this in place, that burden will be on the structure and not on the citizens. I think it serves a very important purpose for us in equity.
Well, if anybody goes to district court, both sides are going to have to bear their own expenses.
If it gets to that point, but this helps avoid that point and puts expenses I am under the impression that we can reclaim expenses with this in place.
In my experience, I think this is a good tool to have because it leads to education and more compliance because people will see this, that this is a tool that Mr. Polanco has. And I think it leads, I think it helps.
Another tool in the tool belt.
I have some questions.
Melody, you have questions?
Yes,
Okay.
I just wanted to understand if, I know this is doing the commission, but there was a lot of information about the rules and what's considered, all the definitions. So are all of these requirements already in our code and we're just putting it under this commission, or are these new requirements and new guidelines that don't currently exist?
The second part of this ordinance?
Just when it's talking about, what the standards, what's dilapidated, what's, occupied, unoccupied, and like all the requirements that people would have to follow. Are those already existing somewhere and we're just codifying them here under the authority of the commission, or are these all new requirements that don't exist?
They exist in a couple of different places.
Okay.
They're kind of in the public nuisances section, and they're also in the International Property Maintenance Code. So this second section of this ordinance will just codify them and give it a more concise place for them to reference. And for the code enforcement officer, should they come upon a case like this, they can directly reference this ordinance rather than the International Property Maintenance Code. There is a section in there that does allow us to use other codes as adopted by the city of Pflugerville, because most of these are dealing with the structure itself, but you're also going to be dealing with the wiring on the premises, mechanical, HVAC, and possibly the plumbing as well. So that clause is put in there to be able to reference those codes as well for consideration as a dilapidated structure.
One of the things I appreciated that I saw in here too is seems like a decent amount of flexibility that the commission has in terms of assessing what needs to be done, the timelines. So I like that they also have an option, right? It's not just a cut and dry thing in terms of timeline, requesting progress reports from the owners, et cetera, that I think gives it a good amount of rigor and a lot of opportunity for the property owner to be actively engaged and participate.
One of the other questions I have, again, we're talking about property rights and lawyers and all of that sort of business. There's a commission, which is obviously the quasi-judiciary enforcement arm. Who's going to bring the cases? Would citizens be able to bring the cases?
No.
Or would the city
as the
attorney
building-
bring the case?
No.
How would that presentation be done?
It is done by myself as the building official, as it says in section, the role of the building official, 92.20, the building official of the city shall be authority to present all cases before the commission.
It would just be like a prosecutor.
So, we get a complaint, house is dilapidated, we go out and do the inspection, I'll determine whether I believe it is. If we do not get compliance, that's when then we call the commission, we present the evidence, we send the notification. There's several other processes of notification before it ever gets to the commission, where we try to work out with the homeowner, hey, let's address this thing. If they fail to comply, they don't meet timelines, if they ignore us, then we call it the Building and Standards Commission. They get a notification for that hearing. They can choose to show up and show evidence contrary to my claims that it's not a dilapidated or a dangerous structure, and the board makes a decision at that point how to move forward with it.
You talked about notice here. I noticed in the section about notices of hearing, it talks about personal delivery, certified mail, signature confirmation service. There was nothing in there about electronic service, email.
I've not found that to be standard in state law. It's always going to be mail or posting directly on the property or personal, giving it to them personally. I've never seen anything with regards to electronic notifications.
And who would that service be done by a constable? Would that service be done by a city official? Would the service be done by a private process server? How would that be done?
Mail, obviously by mail, certified return receipt, signature requested, posting directly on the property by myself or one of the code enforcement officers. Hopefully by that time we've identified and maybe made contact with the individual, the homeowner. And it doesn't have to be all three. We really like it to be. In fact, we always hit at least two. It's always going to be mail, and we'll always post on the property. If we can make contact with the individual, we'll also give it to them personally. But no, it will not be a constable or sheriff or police officer. It will be ourselves.
Okay.
So if I understand correctly, the initial steps of notifying a violation through code enforcement will still occur, and then this is
Yes, ma'am.
then this, instead of going straight to court, this is the intermediary, intermediate step on that.
This is last resort. This is like the nuclear option,
Okay.
Put this on. From the moment they receive a notification to the time it goes before this commission, what do you estimate that time frame to be?
It varies based on the communication we're having, whether they're willing to work with us.
On
There's
average,
just a
what do you
lot of
think?
nuance to the time
A week,
limitation.
a month, 6
The
months?
the initial notice of violation typically gives 10 to 15 days to make contact with us. Now, we obviously know you cannot correct the entire thing in that amount of time. It's just get a hold of us. Let's start working this out, see how we can get it fixed. Now, that's when it becomes nuanced at that point, whether they're working with us, whether they're ignoring us,
Well,
This is not something you want to.
Yeah, I'm thinking of
Vote.
the house that I was going to say Councilman Mateer mentioned. I think you know which one he's talking about. I don't want to say it out here, but let's say that particular home, you gave them the notification. We know that owner gave us a lot of difficulty. How long do you think something like that would have taken before it goes to the commission?
We'll do first round notifications. They're just ignoring us. We'll try again. We'll do second round. We'll do another posting on the property. We keep trying to track them down. Maybe 3 or 4 months.
Okay.
That's more like a 90-day thing instead of a 3-year thing.
I just want to be able to give the applicant or the.
I want to make sure they've got
plenty of
sufficient
time to even
notice.
come talk to us and state their case and everything else. So that sounds fair to me.
Well, one of the other things about notice in here, you've got a requirement that the notice be published in a newspaper of general circulation in the municipality. Those that kind of language and statutes, goes back to the 18th century, and it was, a reasonable thing to do in a time when the only way to get notice to people was public notice was through newspapers. But I'm wondering, is that required by the state statute that you have to have that newspaper notice?
You
Okay.
know the answer to that.
Well, I was hoping that the legislature has moved into the 21st century.
You know our legislature still have not changed that.
So, and I'm wondering if it might be also, more realistic because nobody reads newspapers anymore, to have a requirement to put a notice about this kind of thing on the city website, because that I think is much more likely for people to find out what's the city doing. Well, we'll just go to the city website to find out what the city's doing, rather than a newspaper. Kids today, they don't know what a newspaper is.
Right. I think that'd be more of a policy decision. I don't know if that's.
Well, should that be part of this notice section?
That is a policy question. I would ask who the intended recipient, the intended audience of that posting is, because I think the purpose of the newspaper posting is once again, notice by publication, trying to reach the owner of that nuisance.
Yeah.
And I don't know that it really makes I don't know that that owner of the nuisance is going to notice it on the website and not the newspaper.
No, but nobody's going to see it in the newspaper, and maybe one of the owners of that nuisance has a friend or a relative who
Stumbles
lives in
upon
town
it
and might
and says, "Hey, is this
might
you?"
look at the city website and say, hey.
I think it's both going to be obscure, because where would you put it on the website?
I think we conform to the
Yeah.
statutory.
Yeah, I
requirement.
was like, I mean, conform to the statute, like, and I feel like we've had this conversation. Didn't we have a debate about the radio versus?
Yes, there was.
Yeah, like I feel like
Well, this also does say if personal service cannot be obtained. So
yeah, and
this is only
there's
yeah.
alternatives.
So we're already trying.
Yeah.
We're already trying.
So Robert, you feel comfortable in this the language that's being proposed right now,
The
correct?
general newspaper
Okay.
requirement is that's
and-
mandatory regardless of whether service is obtained in another way.
And also to be clear, that you went ahead and you looked at what the industry requirements were, what they were looking at, what the regarding the applicable conditions here, and given enough time, deviation, because you want to make sure that they do have due process if possible, correct?
Absolutely.
If I recall correctly, you're also, isn't there a licensure where you're one of 900 people in the entire world that has a license regarding, is it building expertise or what is it exactly?
Master Code Professional.
Okay, master professional. So 100 in the entire world right there. Did you recently teach a class on this?
I taught a class. No, I was teaching yesterday in Houston on some other code issues. But
Okay.
no,
So you teach about code issues and code enforcement for other people.
correct. I've been a code enforcement. That's how I got involved in municipal government. I was a code enforcement officer first. I've been a code enforcement officer for 18 years.
Yeah.
Well,
All right,
Mayor,
so-
I feel comfortable
That was
with
a
this.
difference.
So to remind the public, this is a public hearing on the creation of the Building and Standards Commission. I would ask if there's anyone in the public wishing to make comment on this particular item.
Motion to close public comment.
Second.
I have a motion from Caesar and a second from Kim and Rudy at the same time. I'll let you choose.
Kim.
That closes the public hearing.
Motion to approve 7A is presented.
So I have a question.
I have a, hold on, I have a motion. Did I have a second?
I did, yeah.
All right, I have a motion from Rudy and a second from Jonathan. Further discussion.
So back to the item under 92.17 rules of procedure about the failure to vote. Are we saying that this commission, someone could abstain for a reason other than conflict of interest?
Robert, can you clarify for me? So we've got a 4 out of 5 required for quorum. If 4 of those show up, then 3 are required in order to pass something.
And one of them
I don't think
abstains because
we're talking about 92.17 rules of procedure.
Yeah, the final
The way I
sentence.
read it, it's not that it's just the minutes of the meetings are public records of the Building and Standards Commission's examinations, official actions, and other proceedings, and shall reflect each member's vote, absence, or failure to vote on each question. It's not saying you have to vote. It's just saying that the minutes are going to reflect whatever that member did. It's not saying they have to.
Okay.
Well, but
Yeah, but
typically our statutory requirement is that we don't abstain. But if you happen to step away, we had a couple folks away from the dais when we took a vote. I would imagine the minutes would reflect that they were not in their seat at the time, as opposed to absent.
Yeah.
Whether that's the same thing. Our attorney.
Well, and I think that's why you have the alternates right here, is that you're going to have enough time to figure out who's got a conflict, and if that person's got a conflict, they're not going to show up for the meeting. It's going to be probably one item, and you're going to get an alternate in there.
Excellent.
All right.
I feel comfortable with that. All right.
Motion passes 6-1.
Thanks, Robert. Thanks, Pat.
Well, Robert's not done, though. I don't know if you want to take a seat while I read this. Conduct a public hearing. This is item 7B. Conduct a public hearing and consider approving an ordinance on first reading with caption reading an ordinance of the City of Pflugerville, Texas, adopting regulations related to junked vehicles as a public nuisance, providing for the abatement and removal of junked vehicles, providing for the notice, hearing, and enforcement, providing penalties, repealing conflicting provisions, providing a severability clause, and providing an effective date. Robert, you're with us again.
Okay. As stated on the screen, this ordinance has not been updated since 2006. And I think the thing that triggered or that caught my attention mostly was the fact that the current ordinance does not include unregistered or, more properly put, expired license or does not display as part of the definition of a junk vehicle. What you have to understand with junk vehicles, again, it's a takings. These are not the abandoned vehicles you see on the side of the road that typically PD will tag, tow, store, and either sell or reuse or give back to the owners. When you tow a junk vehicle, that vehicle is done. It has to be demolished. It can no longer be resold. It's going to be crushed. It's taken off the DMV records. We send in the VIN numbers, and it's done. So we wanted to make sure that the definition is in accordance with state law with regards to that. The notification provisions have also been revised to better align with state statutes, replacing the current truncated description of the process. Hearing request process is separated into proposed section 9306 and includes the defined timeline for submitting a request. Currently, no timeline is given. The proposed section 9037, conduct of hearing, was added to clarify timelines for hearings and address situations where the vehicle is relocated but remains a nuisance. That's, you cite it at one address, pops up somewhere else. It's the same vehicle, they're just moving it around. And specify required information to be included in an order for removal. The statement of the current section 9303C requiring a public hearing prior to removal of a vehicle or vehicle as part of public nuisance has been removed, so no longer do we need a hearing for that. You can get before we enter, this is specifically for those on private property. PD deals with the ones that are on the right-of-ways. We would still need to go get a court order to be able to enter the property in order, unless the owner gives us permission and we're taking it as part of a compliance agreement. Provisions in the current code allowing for the sale and lien of a junk vehicle are no good. As I said, once you've towed this thing as a junk vehicle, you cannot resell it, can't file a lien on it. The authority is not found in state statute and has been removed. And authority to enforce provisions in 9310, violation of penalties, 9311 have also been added. Again, abandoned vehicles are still able to be enforced by PD under Texas Transportation Code, Chapter 683. One other note, antique vehicles in the current Code of Ordinances list them as 35 years. In accordance with state statute, it should be 25 years.
Okay, so this is a cleanup.
Cleanup and better statutory construction.
Yeah, I believe we used to refer to them as undrivable vehicles. I always considered an undrivable vehicle to be one that can't legally be driven, as opposed to one that can't be driven under its own power. But this certainly cleans that up and makes it much more explicit, so there's no need for interpretation. Council, do you have questions?
Yeah, I was going to say thank you. I know one of the reasons we looked at this years ago was what happened in Historic Colored Edition. There were so many junk vehicles all over the place over there. It was repugnant, to say the least. And for folks who were going to St. Mary's and then, dealing with the cemeteries out there, it was hard to get that cleaned up. And so I'm just glad we got something now where we won't have to have that anywhere in part of the city again.
So I'm glad we won't have junked aircraft either.
So, of course, all vehicles, not
I saw
just
that definition in here.
Watercraft.
And watercraft.
Yeah.
And watercraft.
I know the spirit of this is it's dead on. I mean, I agree with it. Let's say, because it happens, some people turn their old vehicles into art in their yard, or they have big properties, like the Austin had to do something like that.
Or tractor.
Yeah, or a tractor.
Cadillac.
Oh my God, people have tractors in their front yard?
Yeah, it's undrivable. They have plants and everything else all around it, and it's part of the landscaping. Where does that fall? I mean, if it's not really hurting anybody, does it fall under common sense? We're not going to mess with them, or how does that fall?
Well, define hurting anybody.
Well, I guess it's
That's
completely
actually one of the things we took out of the public nuisance ordinance was, I'll read it to you guys here in a bit, because it was a very subjective clause in there that didn't apply. But to answer your question, it's going to be a situation by situation. I think in that particular case, I would defer that to court and have a judge make a ruling on it. Tractors were never licensed, so I don't think that'd be considered.
No, I think of there's one company in Austin that had a drunkard that they had plants and everything in, and the city did make. Oh, it was in San Marcos, and they had to move it to, or one of the two. It was in one city, and they had to move it to another. It wasn't too bad looking. I mean, they decorated it nice, but yeah, I see some of this as I'm driving around Hutto and some of these other properties, and so some of these more urban areas. But I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. Thank you.
I thank you for looking through this and doing a cleanup and bringing it into compliance with the state laws you mentioned. I had a couple of questions. Do we have, just wondering, is this a big issue that we have with junked vehicles? There was some discussion right now.
Absolutely.
I mean, so I don't know if that is the situation that was addressed, but like ongoing. I'm just curious because I don't really know.
It is ongoing, and there are quite a few, but there are still some limitations on what we can do. Even with this cleanup, you can't. It's got to be seen from the right of way. That's the biggest thing with pretty much any code violation, or a majority of them. And you can't. You've got to use the naked eye. So if I'm looking for this unregistered plate or sticker in the window, I can't use my zoom on my phone to zoom in on it because I wear glasses and this. So if I can't see it, I can't artificially zoom into it and try to identify it as such. So there's still some limitations. There's things in state law that are silly, but they're in there, like they can screen it with a rapidly growing shrub. That's everyone's favorite. How long it takes that shrub to grow, who knows, but they can do it. There's no defined, it doesn't have to be this high, it doesn't have to be fully screening it, but there's ways they can come into compliance. Again, we're not trying to be punitive, we're just trying to clean things up. They can move it out of the public view, they can tarp it. That in itself becomes another issue because those things weather and then they start blowing and they look worse than the vehicle did just by sitting there by itself. So,
you can tarp it. You can
sure.
Oh, okay.
Screen it from public view. Yeah.
Okay. I did have one other question because it mentioned the cost of disposal and then there's fines and whatnot. And since this is a vehicle, I was just wondering, how are fines and costs of removal collected? Or is there I don't know if there, because the other item mentioned liens against the property, and it's silent about that, so I was just wondering.
What section was that you were looking at?
93.13 for the cost, and then 93.11 for penalties.
Yeah, you did mention that you can't place a lien on the vehicle because the vehicle is gone.
Yeah.
So these are administrative fines?
There'll be administrative fines imposed by the court.
And imposed on the vehicle owner or the property owner?
Property owner. Property owner is always responsible for what goes on in their property, whether it's their vehicle or not.
All right, did that answer your question, Melody?
Yes, and I appreciate the detail that you provided about what you changed in this ordinance from what exists. So thank you for that.
Council, any other questions?
I have a couple of questions. I want to echo the appreciation for the thoroughness that both Councilman Rutera and Councilman Ryan have expressed. I think that's, you've done a really good job in terms of the mechanics of putting this whole thing together. So I have a hypothetical, and it's not particularly hypothetical. So you have a driveway that has 4 cars. The 2 that are nearest to the garage and the driveway are clearly undrivable. Flat tires, license plate from another state, from another decade. But there are two operational cars behind them. And those two operational cars, move periodically. And when they're in the driveway, of course, they're screening the view. But when the two operational cars are gone, you've got these.
Junked vehicles.
So is your question, can you screen with a temporary obstacle?
Right. And also, and then the matching question is, are these going to be complaint driven, or are they going to be, is this going to be something where we're going to have people driving through the neighborhoods?
We definitely get both, and we most definitely stepped up the proactive enforcement of a lot of our ordinances.
All right.
So
what happens in this hypothetical? This not very hypothetical.
We just continue to monitor it till we can correctly identify it as such. Take the pictures at the time. Hopefully when the operable vehicles are, say, removed or out of the way, and then we can identify it at that point.
In this particular instance, maybe been more than a decade where those vehicles have been there in the driveway, not moving.
So this sounds like a complaint-driven enforcement?
Is this, can a citizen?
I'm not making a complaint, I'm just,
Can a
I know that there
citizen
are
take
people in the neighborhood who have complained.
Can the citizen take a picture when it's not blocking to submit it, or is that sufficient, or do you have to physically see it on a physical inspection?
We have a policy on citizen photographs. We use them to help identify things, but we cannot use them in any sort of prosecution. The officer, the code enforcement, code compliance officer, has to witness the offense because they could be called to testify to those facts and findings. If they didn't take the picture, they can't testify to that. So
if you can see it from a certain point of view that there's flat tires and whatnot, I'm just wondering.
You mentioned earlier it has to be seen from the right-of-way without any assistance, so you can't be sure if that person was, from their window or on private property, or if they used their Zoom. So it would be that such information would be useful in helping to identify and create the complaint, but not in the enforcement.
At least it gives us, okay, I'm looking for a red vehicle at this location.
Mm-hmm.
Helps us narrow it down.
So Melody, we've had folks who have had even one property off of Kelly Lane that had hundreds of these vehicles on the property.
Wow.
But they could not be seen.
See them from Google, right?
Yeah. So it wasn't until someone else bought the property and removed those hundreds of vehicles did we even know that was existed over there. We have another place near
Emmanuel and Wells Branch.
that's the next one. So we have a place on Emmanuel and Wells Branch where
lots of projects.
Yes, and and somebody how do we put it? I'm not going to say threatened, but stated that if we wouldn't allow for a rezoning to happen, it would continue to house a lot of junkered vehicles over there.
Okay.
Any other questions from council? David, that was your two?
That was my two. Thank you very much.
Excellent job.
All right, and to remind the public, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak on this topic? Looks like I've got someone interested in speaking on the topic.
All right.
I think she's going to speak against it.
Ms. Dunbar Crespo, if you would step forward and introduce yourself.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor and Council, City Manager. My name is Ursula Dunbar Crespo. I am a Pflugerville resident. And I really have a clarification question more than anything else. In the definitions under paragraph 93.01, it allows a vehicle an additional 24 hours for a vehicle before it's defined as inoperable. And also the number of days changed from 14 days to 30 days. So we do have a problem with inoperable vehicles in the city of Pflugerville. So I was more wondering why those additional days and hours were allowed.
Give more time.
That's more in line with state statutes, ma'am.
I imagine
Municipalities
we
can-
need to give them an opportunity to fix it so they can get it out of there.
Well, it's just the identification of it to make sure it is truly a junk vehicle. Municipalities can be more strict than state, but in some cases you just want to go with the state standard, and I think this is one of those cases.
Better be
You don't
safe
want
than
to jump the
sorry.
gun on it, yeah.
So how often do we have vehicles that are abandoned on public property, not public right of way? I'm assuming that this applies to the 72 hours.
Public property would still be PD. They can tow those within 72 hours, I believe.
And that'd be like a parking lot.
Correct.
Again, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone else in the public wishing to make public comment? And Urcha, did you get your question answered? You want to come up and make more public comment?
Not exactly. Can you give me the specific state statute that allows the 72 hours versus
I
the
would have to-
48? And
I would have to email that to you.
I would appreciate that. I'm a part of a homeowners association, and we deal with this all the time. So it's just going to make it that much more difficult for us if now someone has all those 16 extra days to deal with an inoperable vehicle. And you do see them drive around, you see them in the driveways. So, yeah, if you can give me the reference, I'd appreciate it, and we can go from there.
After this, I'll
All
get
right.
you my contact info.
And with most, as with most ordinances, this will require a second hearing, or a second reading.
Yeah.
Pardon me.
Move
Oh,
to
okay.
close public comment?
I have a motion to close the public comment.
Second.
I'm sorry, I got a second from Kim.
Oh.
Okay.
All right, public comment is closed. We have a ordinance before us.
Move to adopt.
Second.
A motion from David and a second from Jonathan. Motion passes unanimously. All right, Robert, don't go far. I've got, this one's a little shorter to read. Item 7C, conduct a public hearing and consider approving an ordinance on first reading with the caption reading an ordinance of the city of Pflugerville, Texas, repealing and replacing chapter 92, health and sanitation of the Code of Ordinances, providing for procedures, penalties, and remedies, and providing an effective date. It's all you, Robert.
Okay. This is another restructuring of this particular public nuisance ordinance. Again, the ordinance has not been updated since 2007. It had a standalone section addressing wells and cisterns, which were removed and consolidated under the broader definition of a nuisance. Before, in the old ordinance, high weeds and grass were part of the public nuisance delineated articles. It has now been separated into its own Article 1, providing clear identification of responsible parties and specifying locations where conditions are prohibited. High weeds and grass provisions now reference a standardized notification and enforcement procedures in Article 3, Section 9213, as well as the penalty provisions in Article 3, 9214. The subjective language previously used to describe nuisances has been replaced with more objective and specific descriptions, and the scope has been expanded to include miscellaneous sanitation issues and the storage of discarded materials. Consistent with the high weeds and grass provisions, the public nuisance section is now referenced as standardized notification and enforcement procedures. Notification, enforcement, and penalty procedures for the nuisances have been separated into distinct sections and expanded to more closely align with the state. One of those subjective references in Chapter 92, public nuisance definition, stated a public nuisance is something that greatly offends the public morals and decency. I can't enforce that. You know, I can't.
1963.
Noxious weeds were referenced in the high weeds. What's a noxious weed? I don't know. Perhaps our arborist could
I was gonna say, is that pollen? Because I would love
don't
to
know.
outlaw pollen.
I don't know.
Don't outlaw it
Um,
altogether.
Just the allergies.
Another definition was of a public nuisance is that substantially annoy the comfort, health, and repose of the safety or public. So to substantially annoy.
That seems different than
Yeah.
annoying a reasonable person.
Yeah, I can't enforce those types of things. So we've taken those out and more clear, concise, objective language.
All right. Council questions?
I have a couple of questions. So in the violation section under 92.14, it mentions that the fee ranges from $10 to $2,000 per day, but it doesn't provide, okay. Well, regardless, it doesn't provide guidelines as to which fee level is going to apply to which offense.
Separate offense is committed on each day that the violation exists, unabated, after the deadline for abatement and removal established by 92.13.1c. Any person violating this provision will be fined not less than $10, no more than $2,000 per offense unless otherwise limited by applicable laws. That gives the court a range. This will be done in court. We don't issue citations. I don't have citation power.
Oh, okay.
This would go through the normal notification procedures, and they're either going to work with us or they're not. If they don't, we file it in municipal court. I think this just gives the judge a good range to be able to deal with it based on the conditions that exist.
Why is the range so large?
I imagine, is that statutory?
It is. $2,000.
2,000 is a limit.
Statute for
But
this type of offense.
could the range be smaller? Could it be $10 to $500?
It could be 500
All
to
could
2,000.
Set that. That's a policy
So
decision. You can go to 2,000, but you can go lower than that.
That's the state limits
statute.
us to no more than 2,000, but we could
For
set
health
the-
and safety.
We could set the limit lower than that.
I mean, 10 seems kind of low for something that has gone to court.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't read this as to apply to court, so I'm not sure that it's for the regular person reading this that they would understand that to be related to going to court. I don't know if there can be any clarification on that, or if that's just the regular
As
language.
part of the notice of violation that we send out we've got a standard stock letter that we send. It identifies the property owner. It tells you what your offense is. It gives you a time limit to comply, and it also gives you your right to appeal. And it also states that if you do not come into compliance or you don't reach out to us, then the case will be filed in municipal court. And then the second page of that notice gives the ordinance language of the offense, the appeal procedure, and then the range of penalty.
Okay.
But
So
I understand what you're saying.
Okay, so upon reading this again, in response to your point, I believe that, so it says a separate offense is committed on each day. So each day is a separate offense, is that correct?
Could be.
And so then you can't be fined not less than $10, no more than $2,000 per offense. So that could be daily.
Yes.
So it could be up to $2,000 per day.
Yes.
So that was just my concern because I didn't know about that. So
Again, that's going to be at the judge's discretion based on what the prosecutor puts forward. And the judge has the ability to.
And this
take
is
the
municipal
prosecutors-
court.
Right. It's all in municipal court.
This is our court, the judge that we oversee.
Correct.
Okay, and then another question I had, is there a process for a hearing or appeal of the violation or of the fees charged? Because I didn't notice that in this document.
The appeal is through municipal
It'd be
court.
through municipal court.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because the other ones were specifically defined. This is your right. This is how you appeal. This one doesn't. So for a regular person who's not, well versed in this, they would see that there is no listing of how you can appeal.
No, I disagree. Once there's notice given on this, they would specifically tell them as noticing what the process is and what their rights are. So that
Okay, so I'm just looking for, why do we have it in one section about a hearing and appeal and then not in another?
Those are, I believe, are the others administrative fines, or are those also court administered fines in the other sections?
There would be court administered fines as well.
I mean,
Yeah, I don't know why one ordinance has it and the others don't. I think he's right in the sense that it's going to be spelled out in the letter, and I think, pretrial hearings, you get notice of how, the process, and you can appeal these to county court of law.
You literally, will be put on, you literally will have the steps for appeal given to you over there.
Yeah, I think
but that's information given to one individual through this process, but it doesn't allow understanding for the general public about whether the appeal or options are.
So I do think we should probably add that language to the ordinance, and we could consider that with an amendment. I think we also, as we go through this, we need to consider our audience.
Sure.
I don't think our typical audience is someone who can't go to sleep, so they're reading our ordinances in the middle of the night. But it's someone who has received a letter, received a citation, and is seeking, understanding of how to proceed. That may be spelled out in the letter, but it should also be spelled out in the ordinance.
Right. I understand. Part of the notification process too, in certain circumstances, you get an advisory card first, which doesn't even put you,
It's not a violation yet.
It is, but it's your first warning. It's very much a warning. And then next one that comes will be the official notice of violation that comes via certified mail.
I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of hand-holding through these processes.
There are, and that's the only way you gain compliance. And that's our job.
Compliance is the goal.
Because just like we've done with our police law enforcement here, we specifically, that's what we want. We want compliance as opposed to.
So, Mayor, are you
punitive
asking
action.
Robert to go back and add the language to it and bring it back another day?
Well, I've heard that the language, is in the other ordinances that we're working on tonight. I think it's appropriate that were someone to move to approve this with the amendment that it include the same language.
Mr. Mayor, would you?
I wouldn't
accept
yet
the motion?
because this is a public hearing. But I would be happy to consider that in a little bit. Robert, what else do you have for us?
That's it on public.
Sorry, did we have any other questions?
Unless you have any other questions.
This is a.
Oh, no, I just wanted to, again, I appreciate the thoroughness that you've demonstrated here. I'm glad to see that there's a separate section for high weeds, because I also have been involved in a neighborhood HOA, and that is a continuous problem. So I appreciate that you're addressing it with clear guidelines that a normal person can understand that's, objective. So thank you for that.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. This is a public hearing. I would ask if there is anyone from the public wishing to speak on this item. Looks like I've got one. If you come forward and state your name.
This is Scott Stieferman. I guess one simple part about this is it doesn't say anything about the HOA. If their findings are that they have somebody that they reported, do y'all take into account their timelines and their delivery of notice or delivery of?
It's got to be.
Can you get closer to the microphone?
Did y'all hear that question?
No, I don't think we heard it on the microphone.
That's fine.
For the
I guess the
public
question was,
transparency.
if there's nothing specifically mentioned here about the HOA, if the HOA has proceeded with their own notifications or deliverables, does this take into account their timelines or their
So you're
delivery?
asking for if the HOA's notice. So this would be a judicial process.
Okay.
So I don't think we could rely on the HOA to kick off that timeline. It would be, I would ask that if there is a concern that the HOA raise the complaint as well, so that the judicial process could be undertaken. Robert, would you like to add anything?
It's just municipalities and HOAs are two different.
Yeah.
We don't enforce HOA, and they're just completely.
Now, what
separate.
you can do is you can have a court and you have a judge, and ask the judge to take judicial notice that the HOA has adjudicated the same, action. So, I mean, I think it's redundancy But those are two different process procedures over there as well. But I mean,
So this would effectively start at like ground zero, day one.
Yeah.
Day
This would be day
whatever
one
of
for the judicial process.
Yeah.
Yes.
identification.
So if the HOA has been going on for 9 months and you're finally getting to the city, please come to the city sooner.
So again, is
I
that-
advise that a lot
Yes,
because people
yes.
sometimes take the city more seriously.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Well, when you have
I was about to say,
when you
depends
have
on the
judicial
HOA.
authority, yes.
Yes, so-
Yes, they
Well,
tend
remember,
to.
HOAs can take your home.
Is there
That's
anyone
right.
else from the public wishing to make a comment on this item?
They don't want to though.
I see none.
Unless there's a
Mayor, move to
fight.
close public comment.
Second.
I have a motion from Caesar and a second from, was it Jonathan?
Yeah.
And I'd like to add a friendly
Oh, hold on.
To
This
the
is
public
closing
hearing.
public-
Oh, to close the public hearing.
Afterwards.
I'm sorry.
You'd like to amend closing public comment?
No.
Not yet. All right.
Sorry, I misunderstood the motion.
There we go. And this is an ordinance. David, would you like to make a motion?
I would like to make a motion. I would like to move that we adopt the ordinance with the amendment that have the processes spelled out in the same way that the other ordinance does, and also that the maximum daily fine be limited to no more than $500.
All right, we have a motion.
Second.
All right, we do have a second with a reduced maximum fine.
Let's say, go to comment. Is 500 normal? I mean, are other cities doing around that, or are they sticking to 2,000?
I think the question is, what do you want to give your judge the authority to enforce?
Right. I mean, I'd rather have the tools in the tool.
The tools in the toolbox.
Mhm.
It's a bit bigger stick.
$500 a day still adds up.
$500. Sorry, say it again.
$500 a day still adds up.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're talking about a separate offenses each day that you have something.
That
So,
could be $14,000 a week for high weeds.
I mean, I'm sure that it would that the higher one would be for something more substantial under this thing, but you know, for 1 month, $500, you know, is $15,000 for a month. So I still think that's a
All right,
big
good. Can you
stick.
call for the vote? All right.
Sitting here talking all night.
I feel you, Caesar.
All right, motion passes.
Thank you
Oh,
very much.
are we missing a? Oh, no.
That brings us to 7D, and Robert, I'm not kidding. You might want to sit down for this one.
Really?
7D is conduct a public hearing and consider approving an ordinance on first reading with the caption reading.
Sorry.
An ordinance of the City of Pflugerville, Texas, amending the City of Pflugerville, Texas Code of Ordinances, Chapter 150, adding Section 150.18 regarding the means of appeal in the International Business Code 2021 edition, the International Residential Code 2021 edition, the International Plumbing Code 2021 edition, International Mechanical Code 2021 edition, International Fuel Gas Code 2021 edition, International Energy Conservation Code 2021 edition, International Fire Code 2021 edition, International Existing Building Code 2021 edition, International Property Maintenance Code 2021 edition, International Swimming Pool and Spa Code 2021 edition, with amendments to meet local conditions, providing that this ordinance shall be cumulative, repealing all ordinances to the extent they are in conflict, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
We've got a lot of codes, and I've got to enforce them. As currently adopted, when we did the 2022, back in April, March of 2022, when we adopted the 2021 Code of Suites that you just read out, as an oversight on my part, we are currently referencing Section 2.3 of the City of Pflugerville Unified Development Code Board of Adjustments, but their duties in that section are in terms of zoning and variance requests. They're a planning board of adjustments. Going through, I can't remember what tipped me off on this, but I found out, it was wrong. So what this amendment seeks to do is correctly reference the appeals to the Board of Adjustments as described in Chapter 150. It already exists. It's Article 4, Section 15040. This section of the code correctly references variances in terms of the city construction code. It's a construction board of adjustment instead of planning. They shall govern appeals taken from the actions of an administrative official pursuant to the city construction code. That's their mandate or duty.
So just for clarity, this moves it from planning and zoning to board of adjustment?
Correct.
Council, any questions?
There's not really a good name for it, but it's construction board of adjustment.
I'd like clarification because you said the first time it references to board of adjustments related to zoning and variance requests, but this corrects it to reference construction board of adjustment. Do we have two different board of adjustments?
You're going to have to create one. You're going to have to appoint people to that.
Okay, so we have our current board of adjustments is solely for zoning and variance requests, and so now you're saying that this will correctly reference the appropriate location, and we are now also going to have to have a second board of adjustment for construction.
Correct.
Or board of appeal.
It was.
Board of appeals. Okay.
It was asked if this board of adjustment could serve as both, but I think you're looking at two very different disciplines when you're talking about planning to construction, and therefore it's been argued that they should be separate.
Are there statutory requirements for the appointees?
No. In a perfect world, you probably should have people from the various disciplines of construction, maybe a plumber, electrician, mechanical, a general contractor, maybe an engineer, but no. Some municipalities do stipulate the state law for, like, let's say the Texas State Board of Plumbing Code. Their 9-board member does stipulate, you got to have contractor, an electrician, a plumber, master plumber, and things of that.
The specific disciplines.
But this doesn't have those.
Okay. Council, any other questions?
This again, one last comment. This is one of those boards that we're going to meet hopefully once. In the 18 years I've been doing this, I've never had anyone appeal one of my decisions all the way to a board of adjustments. We've always been able to work things out amicably. There's provisions in the code that allow me to grant modifications to the code provisions as long as the original intent of the code is met and the safety is not diminished by that modification. So, again, we'll meet once, hopefully, and never meet again. But
is there a specific case pending that
no,
that's requiring this?
No. Okay. This is just part of normal code adoption. It was there. It was just referencing the wrong place.
Any other questions, Council? Nope. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak on this item?
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion from David, a second from Caesar. All right, this is an ordinance before us. Anyone wishing to take action?
Motion to approve 7D.
Second.
I have a motion from Kimberly, a second from Caesar. Motion passes unanimously. Robert, you heard a number of folks being thankful for your diligence and your the work you put into this. I want to personally express my gratitude for your initiative. I understood at the beginning you mentioned, you took on some responsibilities and discovered some things that needed to happen, and I really appreciate that you took the pride of ownership in ensuring that these codes are up to your standards, and I hope we all have those high standards. So thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
I think he did that pun on purpose.
That brings us to item 7E, which is to conduct a public hearing and consider approving an ordinance on first reading with caption reading, an ordinance of the City of Pflugerville, Texas, amending the city's master fee schedule related to fees for temporary certificates of occupancy. We have our Director Ashley Bailey here to present to us this evening.
Good
Ms. Bailey.
evening. Good evening, Mayor and Council. For the record, Ashley Bailey, Planning and Development Services Director. This item before you actually came up in a work session, as you may recall. This really just provides the flexibility to reduce some of those temporary certificate of occupancy fees. You may recall the first is 100, then it goes to 250, 500. After that third item, it can double every month. They are for 30 days, so every TCO is for a little bit. Typically, these resolve within the first 2 months, 3 months. And we have seen a few go a little bit further. So what this would do was allow for the city manager to then limit those fees and cap them at that 500 amount if they met the certain provisions of the temporary certificates of occupancy, as far as continuing work, working in good faith to clear any of those items up to reach that certificate of occupancy for the final.
A maximum of $500? That's it?
It could be a maximum of 500, yes, if it was determined that they were doing all of the things they need to do. Just because it was brought up that.
So I'm a little concerned with the language there. I think it's up to the minimum of $500.
Oh, okay.
So if someone is on their 6 month, but they're making continuous and demonstrable progress, they could be reduced as low as 500, but the city manager could choose to keep them higher than that.
Well, so I wouldn't, and I'll have to, I'm not sure if there was a difference between the summary and the ordinance itself. I don't recall, but it says to cap renewal fees at 500 per month. So to me, that means maximum.
Yes.
That's not what the
That's
ordinance
not going to
says,
work.
The actual ordinance in here does not.
But it allows the city manager to cap them.
Yeah.
So it grants her discretion.
Okay, but I see, so not less than 500 is what it, so the summary just
Yeah, so she can't bring it down to 300 or 100, but she could say, okay, no more than 500 this month.
Per month.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it says the city manager has discretion to reduce the TCO renewal fee to not less than 500. So that's different. Yeah, the ordinance is, but the summary was.
Because the way it's written now, it just automatically goes up and it could get into, the stratosphere, and the city manager would be handicapped, unable to keep it out of the stratosphere.
Is this something that we're proposing for moving forward, or are we trying to use this and create this to help someone who may already be in a situation at this time?
I really don't have a good answer for that. This is one that came up in a work session because I believe there was a complaint about TCO fees potentially, and they wanted to have this.
This was an item that I brought forward. This was there was a gentleman who came and spoke in his 3 minutes describing this issue, and so yes, there may be an active case where this would be applicable, but this does give the authority to adjudicate that to the city manager.
So would that be retroactive to prior months or from now going forward?
It would be now going
forward.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be grandfathered.
No.
And then I just had just a gut check here. I didn't have the chance to look it up, but how does this this cap, or not cap, but the minimum of 500 compared to what our fees were before we changed them?
So before they were changed, when the TCO fees were changed last summer during the budget process, prior to that, it was the 100, 250, 500, and then it was continually 500. Unfortunately, what staff was seeing at that point was that we had a lot of temporary certificates of occupancy just staying on a temporary certificate of occupancy and never reaching completion. So what we were trying to do at that point was to get a little bit more of incentive, because typically you do see them, they're going to be resolved in the 60, 90 days.
But yeah, 500 with no progress versus allowing them if they're making progress.
So this is it defines the different levels and the criteria that you have to do. So basically this is giving discretion to go back to that previous fee level if they meet the certain criteria.
Yes, it's warranted.
Okay.
But the other piece of that is that some people would rather pay out your little $500, and so.
Well, then it'll keep doubling.
But the city manager has discretion to grant or not grant that waiver.
So this gives her the ability to stop it.
Yeah, much like.
How about they just fix it?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They have to be showing progress towards fixing it.
Gotcha.
That's the goal.
And we do identify what is substantial. If you want to give us some examples of that, just
Sure
briefly.
So right now we do have a few different types of temporary certificates of occupancy. So you have fixtures, furniture, and equipment. So that's really just moving things, and it's not open to the public or staff. Then you get to the next step where if you already have those items in, then you would get to be able to have staff in there for training. But you're really looking at that substantial completion. Some of the ones the main one that I know of that actually stayed on a TCO for quite some time was the HEB, but it's because they installed the wrong size wastewater line. So that one, the store was able to be open, but they did have a longer TCO time.
It smelled a little funny for a while.
Yeah.
But certainly it's really, once they're at substantial completion, all of their life safety is complete. That's when Robert and his team typically starting to look at, did you finish out what the fire marshal needs? Are we at a substantial completion point where it's safe to be in there? Certainly if there's going to be something, I know of one that we have right now where the roof mounted equipment, something was delayed in shipping. We went ahead and let them open even though the roof mounted equipment is not yet fully shielded. But that should be resolved. Typically those resolve in 30 to 45 days.
You could easily see a situation where, just like in COVID, there's supply disruptions and they just can't finish. They can't get the last pieces, but they're doing everything they can. We don't want to be charging them $20,000 one month, $40,000 the next month, when they really are doing everything that they can to finish and comply with what we've got. So the city manager will be able to look at that with the building officials and make those determinations. And I think that it's good to have that flexibility.
Council, any other questions on this item? This is a public hearing. Is there anyone from the public wishing to make comment?
I just have a question.
Yeah, if you want to come forward. Ms. Brewer, if you'd introduce yourself.
AK Brewer, I just have a quick question. How does this impact and affect small businesses when it comes to the fee changing?
So it would allow
temporary
those small
certificate of
businesses, if they were making substantial progress and having to extend their TCO, they would not induce the doubling of the TCO fee.
I would say the intent is pretty specifically to help small businesses.
Yeah.
In particular.
And the small businesses are aware that that's written in policy, that this particular process or procedure or this policy of
Those
fees
small
assist them?
businesses would, if they're under construction, would currently be receiving the higher fee for their TCO.
What if it isn't construction? What if it's land? What if it's property? What if it's a small business that is renting that business on someone else's land? So what are the responsibilities there? Is that also written out in policy when it comes to temporary certificates of occupancy?
That's a really interesting question, right? If you're renting and you're trying to do finish out, and the landlord is the obstacle, who then is responsible for the?
Can a landlord be an obstacle?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. They can. Because there's certain requirements that the city has for the landowners, right? And I just wanted to know if those were distinguishable between the responsibilities of the landowners.
And I would
those of
imagine
the
that's part
businesses.
of the city manager's discretion, right? Because I also don't know that it's appropriate for the city to backstop just because you have a bad landlord. I mean,
I think it should be clear. That's it. That's my question. Thank you.
It is clear in the.
I think that we need to.
It's who's applying for
I don't think that changes whether or not we adopt to the nice.
I
That's
can't
a
hear
nice
you.
ordinance, but I do think that's a question we need to address. That's not a hypothetical that I'd considered before, but.
So the scenarios in which the city manager has discretion are documented in the ordinance, correct?
It would be, and then for anybody that would end up having a separate property owner, let's say that it's a full site plan, you've got to finish out of an overall building, you have individual shells. Typically, you're not going to be getting to the point where you would be eligible for TCO without the landowner also completing their items. So if you have a sidewalk, that's federal. We need to be adhering to our federal rules for ADA. So there would be things like that if someone needed to open, that then we could present that and say, the building itself is safe, this one user would like to be open on TCO, how would we like to proceed with that? So I think it is covered in here, just because it would still pertain back to the overall construction of the site.
But then that individual owner would be bound by the TCO. They wouldn't be able to receive a CO until the overall building is.
Correct, and then we would have to end up looking at, to the actual property owner if that were to occur.
So,
I think we have some other ways that we could alleviate that during construction.
so would that fine accrue to the overall property owner, or would that fine be stuck on the individual business?
TCO would
It's the
typically, or
applicant.
temporary certificate of occupancy would typically go to the individual user, and that's where we would then come to the city manager and say, this is the full scenario, and this is why, and we would have other ways to motivate the overall property owner to.
Yeah, because I would say it's not atypical for a tenant to get a fine, the applicant to get a fine for something, and then go to the owner and say, hey, this is not within my purview. I'm getting fined for this. You need to either fix this or you need to pay this. So that becomes its own issue amongst themselves as opposed to us with that.
And typically landowners want rent. So
Yeah.
Yeah. But
it could be that
let's-
scenario
but also
could
let's
occur.
Let's be clear. It's not like we have not dealt with that scenario before.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Melody, what was that?
Now I've just forgot, but well, oh no, I said so. This scenario could occur where there's something is not substantially complete and it's out of the tenant's ability to do that.
It
And
sounds like in
so,
most scenarios, the tenant wouldn't be eligible for a TCO in that scenario.
Either we would maintain
wanna
that the
be
TCO
heard.
would not be issued, or we would issue it and we would
And
bring that
see.
forward as a extenuating circumstance of that
Because
TCO.
they would rather be open than not.
And
Yeah.
we'd rather have it.
yeah,
It's a
if
safety
it's
situation.
All right, again, this is a public hearing. Any additional public comment? I see no additional public comment. Would anyone like to close the public hearing?
Close public comment.
Second.
Second.
I have Caesar and I thought Jonathan. There we go.
Oh.
Yep.
Got to be quicker, David.
Oh,
You made the motion, man. Come on.
it's not online. Let me see. I might
not?
have to research it. There it goes.
There we go. And this is an ordinance. I will move to adopt the ordinance.
Second.
Motion passes unanimously. Ashley, thank you for your assistance and your clarity on that item. This brings us to our regular agenda. Item 8. 8A is to discuss and consider action to approve a resolution appointing a 2026 Capital Improvement Bond Committee. This is for council appointments. I think you were all informed you need to bring 2 people. I had to find 3. Not sure if I did, but has everyone provided theirs, or is this something we need to do
I
at this
haven't
time?
heard that.
so
Okay.
I had I just had a comment.
What's your comment?
So as we think about the timing for a bond, I'm focused on setting ourselves up for success when we go to the voters. We currently have several once-in-a-generation facilities under construction, the Recreation Center, City Hall, and the garage, Public Works Building, and 3 major utility projects, all scheduled to deliver within the next 12 months. The reported amount of general fund unspent bond funds is $414 million, which is approximately 68% of authorized and issued bond funds. Residents want to see continued visible progress on major road and park projects approved in 2020 and prior. And the next set of needs being discussed are important, but they're different in scale and can be sequenced more flexibly for a timing standpoint, allowing residents to see delivery and progress across these existing commitments puts us in the strongest position. And so I support delaying consideration of a potential bond until next calendar year, 2027, when these large projects are open to the public or available and put forth into use. So that was my comment.
Your position, we shouldn't get started on design and planning on other projects until we have these other complete. I feel like that leaves us a gap in our ability to deliver.
I believe some of the bond funds through a certificate of occupancy has already included planning for the majority of the roads that are being proposed. So I just think that if we want to set ourselves up for the most success, that it would be good to have a lot of these big projects visibly done and available to the public.
And the number you quoted, 441 million. I believe.
414. Yeah.
414
It's
million.
from the.
How much of that is geo?
That is the geo and the utility with the
I'm
addition.
sorry, you said that the 414.
I'm sorry, it's general fund. General fund, not geo. But
I'm sorry, 414. I'm trying to understand how much of that is previous bond election dollars.
Yeah, we have 109 million on one of the geo issues that's unspent, and then 40 million. This is according to the on the transparency page of the unspent bond funds that's reported. So that's 149 million from the 2020 geo bond.
2020
out of 191.
191. You're saying that more than 75% of that is
Correct, according to the report on the website.
That doesn't sound reasonable.
I don't have those numbers off the top of my head, but I would just, those are all fair points. Your bond committee, of course, could come back and recommend 0 bonds. So I think it would be in fairness and transparency to have a bond committee learn all of that information and be able to digest it and make a recommendation. Maybe they'll agree and come back with 0. I think in fairness, you should have a committee of citizens make that decision.
Well, I do think that we're more likely to get citizens to say yes after they see big projects opening up than we go to the citizens and say, we'd like you to approve a bunch of money while we have a bunch of unfinished projects in front of you. The psychology of the ask, I think we're more likely to get a yes answer after the Monarch is open and operational than if we put that out there beforehand.
I think that's a very good topic for the bond committee to consider, based on, I would imagine their research would include timing of delivery of projects. This is an item for appointments. We should probably take names and then vote on appointing those people. So Jonathan, do you have 2 people?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Lucas Myers and Chris Wolf.
Caesar?
Mayor, at this time, I do not have names.
You don't have yours?
I'll provide them by the
All
next meeting.
right. Kimberly?
It's Yetunde Truelove, Yetunde. Last name Truelove. She wanted to do grants before.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a second?
No,
Just the one?
just one for now.
All right. Rudy?
I haven't heard back from that too.
You haven't heard back from your 2. Melody?
Dennis Spencer and Eric Klingelberger. Klingelberger.
You said Dennis, right?
Dennis.
Dennis
And I'm sorry,
Spencer.
what was Mr.
Eric.
Burger's?
Eric
Derek?
Eric.
With a C or K?
with a C.
Eric with
I can send it in writing too.
All right. David?
Yeah, I emailed mine to the city manager earlier today, but Mark Choquette, and don't ask me to spell his last name, and Kevin Packenham.
All right. I have Mark Epstein. I have Melissa Call. And my 3rd, I haven't heard back yet, but I'm going to go ahead and put her on the spot. I do believe I heard that there is some overlap allowed on other committees. I do have a member who is on finance and budget.
That one's okay.
Can you explain what board that is?
Certain other committees and boards and commissions cannot also serve on this. but some can based on the ordinance. So finance and budget, for example, can.
Okay.
Charter review cannot.
Library can.
Library can. I think parks cannot. I don't
Well, I thought
remember all the
parks
specifics.
could.
Parks can.
Parks
Yeah.
can,
Parks can.
P and Z
Yeah.
can't, because parks is
Okay.
an ordinance and not a, I don't know
That's
the
good to know.
specific reason. So my third, she'll be surprised by this tomorrow, is Chris Bailey. And so what we have here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I've got 10 members mentioned and 5 pending. Do we want to move forward with the 10 members tonight?
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So
Motion to approve the slate is presented.
Second.
all right, I got a couple of seconds on that. Motion approved unanimously. That brings us to item 8B, discuss and consider action regarding special counsel engagement letter with Denton, Navarro, Rodriguez, Bernal, Santee, and Zek. I believe our new attorney, would you like to chime in on this?
I've looked at the rates, and I think they're market rates. You know, I don't intend for you all to support them forever. But I think for this, at least for the next month or two, they have some files, and they're certainly doing some good work and helping me out with getting me up to speed on certain projects, and I think it'd be well worth my time and your support to enter into this agreement.
I'll only agree to this if you get a new placard.
Yeah,
I already gave Trista a hard time about that.
You just need some tape.
Yes, Mayor, we entertain a motion.
Of course.
I just had a question. So do you have an idea of how long you think this agreement will last?
3 years.
Just in general.
You were asking for a month or two. I would
Yeah, so
expect 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Hopefully diminishing
Yes.
over time.
Yes, sir. Yes, and yes.
As you take on more
Yes.
responsibility and things
Right.
transition.
Yes.
Because I thought a month or two was a little short.
Month or
That's
two.
optimistic.
That's why.
Yeah.
Right. That's why.
Yeah.
I would say
I'm
3 or
optimistic.
4 diminishing, of course.
Yes, I think that's fair.
Fewer hours as we go along.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Second.
B is.
Got a motion from Rudy and a second from Kimberly.
You still can't get it fast enough.
Motion passes unanimously. That takes us to the end of our agenda. We will circle back along at item 9 to items pulled from the consent agenda. Item number 5B, approving a professional services contract with WSB in the amount of $156,136 to provide facilitation and technical advisory services for consideration of a 2026 bond program, and authorizing the city manager to execute the same.
Yes, and for all 3.
This was, I believe, pulled by Mr.
Councilman
Rogers.
Yeah. So it's been a while since we had a bond committee. It seems like the scope of services is a little larger and the cost is substantially larger than last time. Maybe I'm remembering that wrong, but I'd like to have a presentation about that.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. For the engagement services with WSB, it is different than the last time we used a bond consultant. Last time it was strictly for hosting the bond committee. The scope of services is larger, and if the committee and council then recommends going to an election, that they would help us through communication and engagement, which is a larger part of the scope and not included from last time, to get us to that election in November.
While you ponder that, can I ask, what was the amount included in the budget for this services originally?
We had initially an estimated 100,000. We're utilizing portions because the bulk of it's from transportation, transportation professional services, and the bond estimate from other professional services from city manager's budget line item.
Okay, so it's 100 from CMO and 50 from transportation.
It's 100. I think it's actually 111 from transportation, and the balance from CNO.
So can you explain to me what we're talking about when we're talking about communication and engagement?
Sure, it's important to be sure that the community knows what's coming before you. As you mentioned, what those projects are is important to be able to convey accurate information. And so being able to have a good communications plan, how we communicate that and engage with the public prior to that election is important. And so they're going to help us with that plan. And we're not sure what that looks like, and they're going to help us form that.
Has that been a problem in the past? I mean, why do we need outside services on that? It seems to me that
We need some staff support for this project. We have several positions down at the moment, and it's a heavy lift to carry a potential bond project or bond package that is this large.
As I imagine, the skill set of creating the information related to this and ensuring that is properly communicated, because as we know, the city cannot advocate in an election.
Right.
And we want to make sure that we have professionals who do this. We haven't done this in 6 years.
Right.
So we want to make sure we do it right.
Mm-hmm.
I would just ask, can our communication staff, are they properly staffed and trained to perform this type of activity, or is this something that only happens every 6 or 8 years, and we're going to need to bring in outside professionals?
Well, we're down on our comms team, and I think that this helps to they'll of course be part of that collaboration, as with our transportation, our parks, and our other staff. This really helps us to fully put this picture together and can properly convey information to the bond committee, and then potentially then to the public as it moves forward.
I think that's a really important point that you brought up regarding the current status of our comms team. And so consequently, we want to make sure that we put our best foot forward and make sure that we maybe not eliminate, but hopefully mitigate any issues or concerns that may happen regarding our conversations with the public and bond committee at large regarding some of the effective tools and aspects and frankly what we're trying to get done here. So.
And two, it's important to have a consultant that has done this for other cities. They have different approaches. We do this once every 5 to 6 years, and so bringing on someone who has that lens and experience in it, we believe will be very helpful to this process.
I understand our comms team is down a little bit, but even down, don't we have more people in comms now than we did 6 years ago?
I don't compare the numbers. I imagine we might. We have a lot going on across the city in which they communicate out really effectively, and so we want to make sure that all the things we already have going on continue to remain successful while we add on to everyone's plate.
We're expecting to fill those empty spots in comms, right?
Absolutely, that does take time.
Councilman Rogers, are you suggesting we increase the headcount of our internal comms team?
I'm sorry.
Are you suggesting that we increase the headcount of our internal comms team?
Well, we have unfilled positions, so and they're budgeted already. So why are we spending the same money twice?
It's not. It's right. That's a component of this, right? That they're going to bring a whole lot of other experience. That's one element. Is engagement. They cover understanding engineering, communicating to bond committees, looking at projects, considering the CIP as a whole, and then comms is a component of that as we get towards the end and towards an election.
So I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
So what we're talking about right now is task 3 about proposition communications, and that task is only going to be going forward if the council votes to put a bond proposition.
That's right.
So if there were a situation where, it wasn't going to move forward, then that part of the scope would.
Right.
This is a time and materials contract, not a fixed fee.
Right.
Okay. And then I noticed in that task there was the scope was. It appears to be one city council meeting, but what if there were more than one city council meeting, like if there was the initial one and there was modifications that needed to come back? Would that be something additional, or is that included in the scope?
There's an additional for meetings and something we could work with the consultant on.
Okay, and then when I was looking about who they were going to reach out to, and they mentioned key stakeholders, and I was just wondering if the city council members individually are included in that definition, so that city council members would meet with them the same way we did individually with the strategic plan.
We haven't had a kickoff until we want to make sure that this passes first. That's usually the time in which we define the stakeholders.
Okay, so would you define the stakeholders, including city council members that have meeting individually, like the strategic plan?
I think I'd look to WSB for their recommendation on it. I'm not sure, because you all will see it. We've talked to you all about the projects previously. Strategic plan, very different than a bond. I don't know that time is well spent for you or them on those individual conversations. But if that's something council would like to happen, we can certainly put that on the stakeholder list.
So if council members were not included as stakeholders, the one time that they would receive information is at the city council presentation.
You'll receive information related to the bond recommendation at that time, right?
One meeting.
Staff can update you through the process. That's for when our consultant is here. You won't just hear about tonight and then come May, here's the recommendation. We'll update you on how the bond committee meetings are going, as we do through various communications like the weekly.
Okay, and then in section 4, there was some items about exclusions. And so some of them seemed possibly important that would be needed for projects of this scope. And so I was just wondering, do we anticipate that those additional consultants will be needed? And is there, and then do we have budgeted for those estimated costs of services? Like they mentioned financial analysis, debt capacity, or projected tax impacts, which I believe are essential for, and has been included in previous bond committees. So I'm thinking there's then another contract that's going to be needed, possibly.
We don't think for that particular one that'll be necessary if we needed to. But we have a bond counsel, we have financial advisors that we're bringing on board. You've seen them; that they're Dusty and Richard will help us through that component of the bond.
Okay, so they'll serve that purpose.
Right? They're just saying we don't have. Sure. We're not bringing this along.
They don't have.
They're not going to do it.
We will be providing.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very important component.
And then what about the other, because I mentioned 2 items in the information I sent in advance about the facilitation of the ballot language, polling coordination, voting processes, and then also accurate construction cost estimates. So we already have consultants that we're working with, or staff that could handle those 2 services as well.
We do. So through whether it's parks or transportation, downtown, we've got a lot of estimates, and our consultant teams that are helping us with those specific projects that are.
And I imagine our attorney will help us with bond
and our attorney can help us with bond language.
They just called it out specifically, so I just wanted to know who was handling those services.
All right.
So if we didn't have
any other questions, council?
Motion to approve 5B as presented.
Second.
I have a second from Jonathan or Kim. Either way. All right, motion passes. That brings us to item 5C, approving a resolution of the in support of the Travis County sponsored applications to the Capital Area Metropolitan Planning Organization, CAMPO, 2028 to 2031 call for projects, and authorize the city manager to execute the same. Melody, I believe you pulled this one.
Mayor, may I ask that any questions be pertinent to the subject on our vote also? Will they affect our vote? And if somebody's going to vote no anyway, please ask that they not waste everybody's time.
That is a great recommendation. Melody, I believe you had questions on this?
Yes, I was just wondering about the projects that were included in here. What was the criteria for eligibility for the streets that we could submit for this funding or call for projects? And then how are these streets selected?
For clarification, this item is approving a resolution in support of the Travis County
Travis
sponsored.
County's.
So were these items that we submitted,
Oh.
or we're supporting Travis County with this item?
Great question.
Okay.
Thank you. These are all items that Travis County has passed to staff to support. So this is a
okay.
resolution of support.
Okay, this is a resolution of support for Travis County's, so we wouldn't have their justification for or their determination on how they made these claims.
Oh, I asked these in advance, and so I didn't know that information.
Travis County and Williamson County had the two biggest amounts, 26.
All right,
May I
did that answer your questions?
Well, I was also curious if I could be if there's a map of the segments of the roads that were being included
I
here.
think we'd need to ask Travis County for that.
No, I do not have that.
Okay, so we don't know the extension of like.
I think the only one that was the extension is for Jesse Bowles. They had I think Avalon and then 973 on the far east side. That's in the resolution.
The center portion.
Okay. Move to approve.
Second.
A motion from David and a second from Rudy. Motion passes. That brings us to item 5D, approving a resolution committing Type B sales tax funds in support of parks and recreation projects consistent with the 2026-2030 strategic plan and PCDC comprehensive economic development strategy to ensure long-term investment in community quality of life. David, I believe this was you.
Yeah, I'm concerned that this is going to kneecap the PCDC and basically outsource the funding of Parks and Rec to PCDC. That doesn't seem to me that that's what PCDC is for, but maybe there's something in a presentation that'll convince me to the contrary.
I don't believe we have a presentation for this. I believe it was based on retreat discussion.
If I recall correctly, at the retreat discussion, we discussed about specific dollar amounts at the point of, like they mentioned, 2.1 million and decreasing over the next 5 years. So I was not expecting 50%. And then I also did ask a question in advance of what does this mean in terms of actual dollars each year? And would the debt service for the recreation center be included in this 50% allocation?
I think that my understanding was that that was part of the intent and part of having a guardrail like this. And also doesn't have to be 50%, right? This doesn't preclude the normal budget cycles and approvals that happen anyway, I don't think. And so I think, PCDC's also been pretty consistently funding parks projects as well. And so I think if we actually do look at that as a single bucket of those efforts, that will also help us to prioritize those projects and the need to make sure that we're, delivering on our quality of life projects.
Well, and that's, like you said, that's been a long time piece of PCDC. When I was on PCDC back in the dark ages, when dinosaurs roamed the earth and we had problems with the tar pits on the east side of town, in the area that we've since paved over and put a toll road on, the PCDC gave generally around $75,000 to $100,000 a year to Parks and Rec, which was, a substantial part of the Parks and Rec budget back in the day, and a substantial part of the PCDC budget back in the day, but it was nowhere near 50% or even 15%. And I think that this resolution is just, it's if we adhere to this, it's going to make it virtually impossible for the PCDC to fulfill its primary job, which is bringing primary jobs to the city of Pflugerville.
David, would you like to make a motion amending?
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask. What number are you coming
Well, we don't have I'm concerned because I asked for the number in advance. What is the 50%?
What do you mean?
Is that is it $6 million a year?
No, it's of revenues.
Yeah, so what, I think the
what's their
revenue,
average revenue?
yeah.
Oh, 12 million.
12 million.
Okay, so we're talking about $6 million,
Up to.
up to $6 million. So my concern with such a high number is there's also psychology to it. If we approve this and then people, yeah, it will be like, well, we have up to $6 million. And in general, people, when they think they have up to a certain amount of time, or amount of money, they're going to ask for it.
So what number would you suggest?
Well, whatever the $2 million, that percentage, so 1/6.
I mean, I like the idea of a percentage, especially because if sales tax revenue goes down, for example, right, that number would go down. And likewise, if we have a great year, we'd have more to work with. I also think that I've not seen other proposals for PCDC dollars right now. In terms of things that we could invest in that maybe we would rank higher. And so I think we could always revisit this at a future time if there is an investment opportunity that we would like to pursue.
So,
but I think quality of life for our citizens is, I mean, that's what we all hear about all day, every day. And I think it's a very worthy investment.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you want the PCDC to make it a problem for us to have to make decisions on.
Yeah. Bring us so many deals that we would be worried about spending 20% of the budget on parks, right? Because we're growing our commercial tax base.
I also think there's that. I appreciate that. I also think there's other infrastructure type projects that I'm just hesitant to limit it only to Parks and Rec, especially if it was at a 50% level. I just prefer to have projects be brought forward each year rather than saying you have up to this amount for what you choose, and then we could choose to. It's always harder to take away.
So,
psychologically, if you give someone, it's always harder to take away than to make that decision each year.
So correct me if I'm wrong though. This is really almost guidance to take into the budgeting process. So I think we would still see those projects come through. This wouldn't stop that. We'd still be approving the individual items as they come through, as would the PCDC board.
Well, the PCDC board would operate under the planning assumption that half of their money is gone before they get started.
No, it wouldn't.
Because that's what
I think
that's what this this resolution would
psychologically say. and business wise, if
how would you amend the resolution?
Yeah, what are you thinking about? Because if you're
saying, I was amenable to our original discussion, which was $2 million and $2.1 million the first year, and then to evaluate it each year as to the success of the operations of the recreation center, and look at it each year rather than having it just automatically dedicated. I would like to evaluate the need for the recreation center to be funded by PCDC for the sales tax. But then this is just saying you're going to get this pot of money, and if you don't use it for the recreation center, then we can use it for.
Would you like to make that in the form of a motion?
Yeah.
I move to approve with the amendment that it be 1%.
Oh, Lord. Let's.
Oh, hold on. I've got a motion on the table. Motion fails for lack of a second.
Okay, I would. Would you like my motion?
This was because I want to get to a motion though. If you're having concerns, that's fine. I'm trying to understand that. What I'm trying to figure out is what we can get to a solution here. So I'm hearing 50%, but it's not really 50% because, realistically speaking, it'll be something that we see every year.
It's guidance in the budget.
Yeah, exactly. With that, it is fair to say that if they're being conservative, as little c working as they should operate as that. Yes, it can be that 50%, so it should be operating from that. However, you also brought up the fact that you think it's going to stop infrastructure projects, which I haven't heard from anybody. That this is a possibility.
I don't know about stop. I'm just saying that the 50. If you're taking $6 million and you're allocating it to Parks and Rec, or everyone has the assumption that it's going to be allocated to Parks and Rec, then that's the assumption, and that's what people operate by. And so, I'm concerned about allocating that much, and just having it be assumed that that's going to be Parks and Rec every year. And I think naturally that's how people operate.
Okay.
So I would rather go back to our original plan with dollar amounts that was presented at the retreat, which I don't remember what they are off the top of my head and what wasn't included here.
So, I'm seeing the 2.1 million in the resolution. Is that the number that we discussed at the retreat?
So there's multiple numbers. So you of course have the debt service, which is for FY27 would be 3 million plus the 2.1 million. And then typically we'll see our Parks Department want to look at a replacement of a park. So maybe I could round to 5.1 and a half, something around there, 5.15 is the total.
So
I feel like the debt service is already established.
Already, but I'm kind of.
But that would still be a part of this pie.
That's that part of
Right.
the pie.
And it's part of this pie, but it's already established. Does it need to be
That's fine.
included
I was
in
just
this
trying to
resolution?
give you like the resolution did
totality?
include that, so.
Because Melody, I'd like to hear what you would be, what would be acceptable for you, and see if it is also acceptable for other members of council.
Well, unfortunately, I don't have the numbers for the other few years, so the only number I know right now is 2.1. So I would make a motion that we allocate 2.1 million from fiscal 2027 budget to the Monarch Recreation Center.
I heard that as a motion. I've got a second. Any further discussion? Where'd that go? All right, that passed.
All right.
That brings us to the end of our agenda. Do we have any other, was there any business I missed? Anything we need to discuss before I raise the gavel? It is 9:35. We are adjourned.